So, we'll get into the concept or this particular moment. The first idea is that Soviet montage theory, as the name suggests, okay, it emerged in Soviet Russia. That is point number one, Soviet Russia, okay, and it emerged during 1910s, you can say 1920s, and into it even moved into early 1930s, okay. So you can say in and around October Revolution of 1917, what this particular concept flourished, or you can say even emerged in Soviet Russia. Okay, so that is the first thing. It emerged in Soviet Russia. Okay, the second point is it emerged during 1910s, 20s, and even early 1930s. That is point number 2. Point number 3, it was founded by Lev Kuleshov. Lev, L-E-V, Lev. I am pronouncing it as it actually spells. Okay, Kuleshov, K-U-L-E-S-H-O-V, Kuleshov. Okay, while he was teaching in Moscow Film School. So he was teaching in Moscow Film School. So that time he in fact founded this particular movement. So that is point number 3. According to a prominent Soviet director, Sergei Eisenstein, S-E-R-G-E-I, Sergei Eisenstein, E-I-S-E-N-S-T-E-I-N, Sergei Eisenstein, he has divided the this particular Soviet montage theory into 5 types. Okay, we don't have to get into the details, but I just want to brief you about that. First one is intellectual, second one is metric montage, third one is tonal montage, fourth one is rhythmic montage, then and the fifth one is over tonal montage. These are the different types of montage. Montage, I have told you, it is basically related to editing. So intellectual montage is, I'll just quickly go through it. Intellectual montage is where through contrast images you try to bring in the editing, okay, or through editing by bringing in contrast images you try to bring out the emotion. Okay, that is intellectual montage. Second one is metric montage, where the focus is on frame by frame cut. Okay, so that is metric montage. Thirdly, you have rhythmic montage, where you give equal weightage to the visual and also the auditory sense. Then you have tonal montage. It is just in opposition to intellectual montage, where you place contrast shots. Here you go for similar shots. Okay, and overtonal montage is in fact the amalgamation of all these types of different types of montage. So it is basically related to editing. That's it. Okay, so that is the third point that you have to remember. This particular movement is widely known for changing the entire landscape of film editing. What is this montage? It is very important. Okay, montage is basically a French term, okay, which is a term that is used to describe the connection of individual pieces, be it a film or you can say music or images, into a cohesive whole. Okay, so any any technique that we actually use to connect the individual pieces, okay, that is basically called as a montage. So why exactly this montage has become an important concept in the context of Soviet cinema? Okay, so in order to answer to that particular question, first of all we have to understand the background of Russia during that particular time. Okay, two things that we have to remember in this context are: one, the establishment of the Moscow Film School in the year 1919, and secondly, Vladimir Lenin came into power after the October Revolution in 1917. Vladimir Lenin came into power in the year 1923. Okay, so these two incidents, 1919 the establishment of Moscow Film School, and 1923 you can see the power when Vladimir Lenin came into power. These two are the important incidents that you have to remember. The Moscow Film School is also called as VGIK. Okay. So another thing is, like, along with Vladimir Lenin, you can see that Bolsheviks came into power. And when Bolsheviks came into power, there was a radical change in the political and the social scenario of Russia. So with that, it became quite difficult to come up with films. Okay, so there is no film stock as such in Russia. So people resorted to film studies, the study of film. Okay, so that is why. And Lev Kuleshov, as we have seen earlier his name, okay, he became a professor, one of the foremost professor of Moscow school. He has begun experimenting with new ways of film editing by 1920s. So that is the background of, you can say, Soviet montage theory. Okay, so since there were less stock of films, or you can say there is no films as such, from Russia, very few films that were in support of the Bolsheviks or the so-called communist party in Russia. Because of that, what happened is, like, they resorted to the study of film, okay, rather than to create a film. So you can see that, Kuleshov and his students, they rigorously they were experimenting with, film. And Sergei Eisenstein is one of his students. Thus, in short, Soviet montage theory is an approach. In short, Soviet montage theory is an approach that focuses on the understanding and creation of cinema that relies heavily on editing. Okay, and hence, you can say it in a way brought in the formalism in film. Okay, formalism in literature, or new criticism in literature, we have seen. So likewise, there is a formalism in film, and that is in fact initiated by the Soviet montage theorists. Hence, it can be said that, because of the special conditions of Soviet Russia at that time, the film theorists of USSR focused less on the meaning of the film or the message conveyed through the film. Rather, they shifted their focus to the technique of the film. Okay, and might be resulted in, you can see the praxis of filmmaking and theory, and that in fact resulted in the Soviet montage theory. Okay. Sergei Eisenstein is not the founder of the Soviet montage theory. Rather, you can say that, he codified its use to an international platform. And Kuleshov, you can say, to a great extent, he has founded this particular theory. Though, we will be more familiar with, Eisenstein than with Kuleshov. That is why I have made the distinction. Okay, and maybe because of the distance and lack of access to Russia, this particular effect confined more or less to Russia, and you can say other Soviet regions, or regions that are under Soviet rule. Okay, another term which we normally see in this context is, Kuleshov effect. Kuleshov effect is like, for example, a person with a neutral expression, okay, which is placed in contrast with a bowl of soup, like that, and that another image, which is quite different, it will come in between. So that is how, through editing. So that is how. So he is famous for his, juxtapositions of shots, of shots. So that is what we call as Kuleshov effect. Another important aspect that we have to understand in this context, of Soviet montage theory, is that they believed in the power of montage, okay, to fragment and to reassemble a footage. You can fragment, a footage, and also you can later on you can reassemble the footage, and through that you can manipulate the perception of the viewer. You will not be in a position. Two shots might be taken in entirely two different occasions, okay, but you can bring them together and you can go for a continuity. Okay, so you can manipulate